Welcome to a very special episode of Journey at Home. Thanks for joining us, by the way. In a moment, you're going to hear an interview we shot live in our Sunday service. But first, let me give you a little context. This is week 3 of our series, Extraordinary Story, How God Uses Ordinary People. And during this series, we're pausing to celebrate what God's done here at Journey in the first 20 years. And we're looking ahead to the story He's inviting us into for the future. And as I shared in the last episode, we have 3 areas where God is giving us incredible opportunities right now. Regionally, we have the opportunity to be a catalyst for a spiritual revolution in this region. We now have a growing number of you attending from 5 different counties, which gives us the opportunity and the chance to do in each of our communities what we've been doing here in Callaway. We also have an opportunity nationally to start and support churches around the country. This year alone, we've been able to help over 70 churches who have wanted to learn more about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And we've helped 4 new church plants around the country who want to start churches like ours in communities that have no church like this. And we've got the opportunity to help dozens more of those in the next few years. Then internationally, we have the opportunity to launch and support networks of churches around the world. This includes everything from helping expand our partner network in England and Ireland, to helping our Latin America network start 100 new churches in the next decade, to launching a new network in Brazil. In next episode, you'll hear directly from one of the people being impacted by our partnership. But here's the question you may be wondering. Why would we do all this? Well, I'll tell you why. In a letter to the churches in the region of Galatia, Paul wrote in Galatians 6, and he said, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we'll reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have," and here's our word, "as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers." Anytime we can do good for others, whether they follow Jesus or not, we ought to do it. And Paul says anytime we have the opportunity to do good for another local church, oh my goodness, we should maximize it, because the local church is the hope of the world. When a local church is working right, their whole community is better because of it. So whenever we help another local church, it has exponential impact. And by the way, we're also family. Family should help family. So in this episode, you're going to be able to hear from 2 people that have been impacted by what you do. Josh Peterson, he's a buddy of mine who's a pastor of Great Lakes Church in Kenosha, Wisconsin. You're also going to hear from Chris Madden, another friend of mine who's starting a church in Bangor, Maine. So here's my interview with them, and then I'll come back for some closing thoughts. Would you welcome our good friends, Josh and Chris? Come on and have a seat, gentlemen. Let me give you a little backstory on these guys while they're sitting down. So Chris Madden here is all the way up in Bangor, Maine. Any y'all ever been to Bangor? Anybody ever been to Bangor? Hey, you got a couple fans. Anybody been to Acadia National Park? Anyway, so he's up in Bangor and he's been working the last 2 years planning to start a church in Bangor like this one, because there is no church like this in Bangor. I was up there in July and spent a little bit of time with him. One week when I wasn't with y'all, I was with him and got to see it for myself. And they have their first public services next Sunday. So he is, yeah. But he ain't busy. He's got nothing to do. So he's here today. He flew in yesterday. He's flying out today. It's a quick trip. Thanks for being willing to do that. And then this guy on the end is my buddy, Josh Peterson. Josh is the pastor of Great Lakes Church in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Let me tell you, a Kenosha fan. Yeah. I went up to Kenosha. Josh invited me and Jordan. We came up to Kenosha and spent 2 days with his staff in January. He'll tell you more about that in a minute. But he invited me in January. Yeah.
I wanted you to get the real deal.
I got the real Wisconsin deal, I'll tell you right now. And he kept saying it's worth it because the cheese curds are amazing. So as he was getting ready to come down here, I said, man, we got this place called Culver's. Their cheese curds. Yeah. I think he's used to a little something different.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Listen, let me tell you how much Josh wanted to be here to talk to you guys today. He had a wedding he officiated late yesterday. And he drove 7 hours and got in at 1 a.m. this morning so he could be here today. So, Josh, thanks for making the effort. Appreciate it, buddy.
Man, my pleasure.
Yeah. So So let's start with you, Josh. Just tell them a little bit about Great Lakes, what your church is like, what your mission is, what y'all are trying to do.
Yeah. So we are in the southeast corner of Wisconsin, right up by the lake. That's why when Matt came, it was a wind chill of 30 below. So he didn't get hot at any point.
It's very pleasant. Very pleasant, yeah.
Our church planted 17 years ago, so we run on pretty close tracks to Journey as far as like age and things like that go. But 2 years ago, I stepped into that role. We're a church that's for unchurched people. So we say a lot, you don't have to have any church experience to feel at home here. And we're excited that you're here. We built this place for you. And we do everything we do to help people find and follow Jesus. Like that really is our true North Star that we run everything through. And so we're just in an interesting season where the founding pastor moved on to another church out on the West Coast, and I stepped in. And so that's led to all kinds of fun transition and learning and growth. And Matt and Jordan have been a big part of helping with that.
Yeah, when Great Lakes, when he became the pastor 2 years ago, they also stepped in. You'll talk more about this in a minute. They also stepped into the network we're part of about 100 churches around the U.S., Irresistible Church Network. That's how we met. It's also how Chris and I came to meet. So Chris, church planning is a little bit of a different animal, and not just everybody does it. Some would say smart people don't do it. So why don't you, you and I can relate to that. So why don't you share a little bit about why you feel the need to start a church like this in Bangor?
Yeah, well, I actually had no desire to be a pastor starting out. My dad is a pastor, and so I saw firsthand how difficult that can be. And the two things in particular that I didn't love about pastoring, I wanted to be in ministry and have been in ministry since I graduated high school, but I didn't want to become a pastor because, number one, you got to stand up in front of people for 30 minutes and talk. Not my favorite thing. I'd rather give me a guitar and
microphone,
lyrics, microphone. You know, that's fine because that's all memorized. It's not off the cuff. So that preaching was one, and the second thing was just the overwhelming responsibility of being a pastor. I watched that weigh on my dad year after year, and I didn't really want that in my life at all. The problem was, I had been praying for 15 years for a church like this in my area. I kept saying, God, send a pastor. God, send a pastor. God, send a pastor. And I'll join right away. In fact, we ended up moving to Georgia. I'm like, it doesn't look like God's sending a pastor. So I'll go to Georgia. They got some great pastors there. But while I was there, I realized, no, I think I just need to do this. I need to get over my phobia of public speaking, and I need to take on that extra responsibility because there still needs to be a church in that area for people who don't go to church.
All right, so let me just stick with you for a second. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the challenges and pressures that have come with starting a church. And you have been part the last 2 years of the Church Planter Coaching Program that, if you've been around here, you've heard me talk about, that you guys have helped to create. Chris has been one of the, we call them guinea pigs, one of the beta guys who's gone through this for the first time. Just talk about what it's been like, the challenge of starting the church, and how the coaching program has been helpful.
Yeah, I'd say the two biggest things that most church planners deal with, and I'm no exception, is that we got to raise the funds to launch a church, and that's difficult. If you're starting at a church that already exists, they already have a building, they already have equipment, but when you're starting fresh, you got nothing. And on top of that, we also need a launch team. When I decided to do this, nobody said they were going to join me except for my wife, and even she was a little hesitant. So it was just us, and our greatest fear was we would go back, we'd tell people we're going to launch a church, and nobody would join. So we got to build a launch team, and we got to raise the funds. So those have been the biggest challenges. So through this program, they did three things. The first is we had a curriculum that we would go through every month. We'd read a book. We'd watch some videos, and then we'd discuss together. We'd also have a call group, 4 coaches and 4 planters, and we'd just say, hey, here's how things are going. Any advice? We'd talk through what I'd get to learn from what some of the other church planters were doing, and if they failed at something, I'd say, okay, I'm not going to do that. And if they had success, I'd jump right on board. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is once a month, I get to meet with a coach. My coach is Jeff. I dodged a bullet. Matt's not my coach, so I'm safe.
You got a good one. Yeah.
And we get to talk through all the details of what I'm going through. And many times, my wife and I will be talking about something going on in the church. She'll say, "When's your next coaching call?" Because she's like, "Hey, ask your coach, because this one we need some outside help for." So that's what the program's been like for me.
Yeah, it's been exciting. By the way, the Jeff he's referring to, if you were here in week 1 and we played the video of all the pastors thanking you guys, Jeff was the guy in that ugly orange shirt that had a T on it. So how dumb am I that a Tennessee guy looked better as a coach than me? But anyway, that's where he is. No, it's been cool. We're so excited to see what happens, not just next week, but over the course of the next year as they get this church off the ground. And we didn't tell them. Go ahead and tell them the name of your church.
Journey Church.
What a brilliant guy, huh? How smart is that? Yeah. He said, we're calling our church Journey. And I was like, I think that'll work. I like that a lot, actually. All right, Josh, let's talk about Great Lakes for a minute. Sure. These folks have had an impact on your church and your staff in some ways they don't know. Will you just paint a picture for them of the small difference they've been able to make to help you guys?
Yeah. Context first, our church grew quickly after it launched. And when you're growing at that pace, it's really difficult to build structure for sustainability. You're just trying to keep up. So now that we're 17 years in and I came into this role, it became kind of my main goal. I have to figure out how are we going to build some infrastructure underneath this and some systems that we can use. So that's how we came across this idea of what we call the Strat Op. And that's when Matt and Jordan came. And they helped us kind of unpack where we were, what we were struggling with, what we were doing really good, and some of our strengths. I think that was the beauty of the whole process, was that they helped us get to some conclusions without telling us what they already knew. And then it became, and we can help you accomplish those things. So for us, it was, we just had no system for how we were going to move people from their very first week to feeling like they were in a place where they owned the mission for themselves, that was personal, and that they were going to be participating in the life of the church. And that's where you guys were such a gift to us, because we knew what we needed to do, but because of your model and your willingness to share it, Matt and Jordan could hand us a kit and say, here's how you can get that done. So we didn't rename our church Journey, but we basically named everything else the same. So we opened a suite. We just opened a brand new building, and there's a suite in there. And that's what we call it. We tried to come up with something better. You guys got the right answer. We have What's Next. We have Serve Now, and we're doing short-term groups. And I have a really young staff. This team's really, they're amazing, but they just don't have a lot of experience. So to be able to go, just do steps 1 through 10, and it'll work. And it has. It's been such a gift to us.
Yeah, one of the things I love about this that I want to connect the dots for is when a church reaches out to us and says, hey, tell us what you're doing to solve this problem, and we're able to share something. This is the beauty of it. So Josh and his team take it, and they start implementing What's Next and Serve Now and all the steps we invite you guys to take, so this feels like your church. But the beauty of it is it becomes an R&D lab, if you will, within our network. So Josh and them take it, they make it better, and then you know what we're doing? We're going, hey, tell us what you're doing and how that's working. And when Josh is like, well, we made this change, then we're able to come back and go, oh, that is a brilliant idea. Let's come back and we'll make ours better by stealing the idea they did. That's what's happening, where by us being generous, it comes back to us, and it's just a reciprocal thing back and forth. You want to just tell them a little bit about the impact it's made, and what Jordan and I did those 2 days we were with Josh is all we did is tell them what y'all were doing. That was all we did. Here's what people there are doing and at Journey are doing. It seems to be making an impact. What's been the difference as y'all have started making it simpler for people to make Great Lakes feel like their church?
Yeah, first I want to just tell you a dirty little secret about pastors. We're kind of competitive with each other. So what I love about this network, and have getting to know Matt, is that that's just not how it is. It really is exactly what he said. Is sharing ideas and best practices. For us, we've been able to offer people a really clear pathway, and the impact's just been tremendous on so many fronts. I mean, we've gotten to see 17% year over year growth at our church, which is hard to do right after a leadership change. But I think because people go, I know what I'm supposed to do now. I walked in the door. I have questions. I know where to get the answers. I know how to get involved. They're gonna hold my hand and guide me the whole way through, because you've been there. You started your first week here at some point. It was probably pretty overwhelming. So the impact for us is just people have clarity about how they can get involved and take that mission personally. And what we've been able to do, I think, is help people go, yeah, Great Lakes Church exists to help people find and follow Jesus, and so do I. That's why I exist. That's why I'm in this community. And that just wouldn't have been possible without the pathway that we've been able to lay out using a lot of your model.
Well, I love that we get to learn from each other.
Yeah.
Chris, talk a little bit from your perspective, somebody who's just starting a church and getting going. The network we're a part of, Irresistible Church Network, the ability to connect with other pastors like Josh. What's been the value of that for you?
Yeah, it's very similar. Just knowing that there's somebody else out there doing exactly what you're trying to do is incredibly encouraging. We had the opportunity to take some of our team to Gwinnett Church, which is a church I was a part of for a couple of years in Georgia, and also part of the network. And one of my team members told me after, I didn't realize that we weren't doing this alone, that we had this other church that's praying for us, that's there to support us. And they told all of my team, hey, if you ever need to call us with advice about any of the ministries you're doing, we're happy to help. So that's why the network's so important to me, is because I've got a resource there where I can reach out anytime to ask questions. In fact, for me, probably about a month or two ago, I needed to do all the signage for our church. And I was just going to bang my head against the wall trying to figure out, what signage do I need? I know I need signs, but which signs do I need? And I was telling Matt I was doing that. And he said, well, let me figure this out. So he and Jordan sat down and they looked at our map of the building, and they looked at the map of the area, and they said, here's what we do, because you guys were church in a box for years and you guys know how to do this by now. And so really quickly, he gave me what he'd do, where to buy it, all those little details. And it helped me a ton, saved many hours of work that I would have tried to do just figuring it out, and wouldn't have done as good a job either.
So one of the things that makes us excited to be a part of this network, when I talk about we have an opportunity nationally to start and support churches like ours around the country in every community, that is the goal of our network. The network gives us a vehicle to be able to invest in that and make it happen. As a matter of fact, we're at 100 churches in the network right now. In the next 10 years, we want to get to 350 churches like this across the U.S., which gets us closer to everybody being within driving distance. And as some of you know, we've been talking about this through a series. It happened again this week. Somebody reached out to me, said, I have a brother who lives in this town in California, this city in California. Do we have a network church there? And in this case, we don't. And there aren't a lot of good options of places to go in that city. I checked and talked to some of my friends who were familiar with that city. That's the importance of this, that to be able to go from 100 to 350 churches like this, and like Great Lakes, and like Journey in Maine's going to be, having one of those in every single community gets personal for us really quickly. So, Josh, I want to give you the last word on this. I've been talking with them over the last couple of weeks about this opportunity in front of us. And the challenge, I think, Josh, is whenever to be a church that does what Jesus asked you to do and maximizes opportunity makes you uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It costs you time and it costs you money. And honestly, I don't know that most churches are selfless and generous enough to be willing to maximize opportunity God puts in front of them. I don't know if we're going to be. We're about to find out. So what would you say to them from your seat about the importance of maximizing these opportunities and going ahead and following Jesus through on this?
Well, I'm sitting here because of it. And I represent a church of about 1,500 people that have benefited from it. And I think what I would encourage you to think about is this. So last night I drove from Kenosha down here. It's about 7 hours, at least if you drive like I do. And it's actually really far. That's a long distance. And you may never, ever come up to Kenosha, but you've had a lasting forever impact in Kenosha. And not just because one pastor met another pastor and we've become buddies and we talk and share ideas, but because I take what I'm learning from you and I bring it up there and give it to them, and they then put it in practice, and we are impacting our city and the region around our city. And maybe one day we'll be invited to give to another church in the way that you guys have given, but that pathway will always lead back here. It'll always lead back to you. It's exponential. We say a lot, and I believe this with all my heart, that God does way more with what we give him than we'd ever imagine to do with it ourselves. My guess is when you decided to start coming to Journey, you didn't think, I'm going to have an impact on a church up in Wisconsin. You probably didn't think about Wisconsin on a normal basis. But because you showed up and you said, God, however you want to use me, however you want to use us, however you want to use our church, look what he did. And look what he's doing. It's just tremendous to think about that invitation and what a privilege. So, when I told my team that I was getting to come and be part of Journey, they all said to a person, please say thank you for us. Please say thank you for us and their willingness to share with us. And I say, so from the bottom of my heart, thanks, but also from the bottom of my heart, keep doing it. Because there are hundreds of other leaders that need your help and they need your support. And they need to know they're not doing it by themselves. So you may not think about it consciously, but know the impact that Journey's having around the world, but even just within a 7-hour drive is tremendous.
Yeah, so for us to maximize our opportunity nationally really does look like this. It's one, just being open-handed and us continuing to share ideas and resources with churches like Josh's, and then we learn in return and everybody gets better. And then financially, it's us saying, okay, where is there no church like this? Bangor, Maine. Okay, how can we help come alongside people like Chris and just make it a little easier for them on the financial front to be able to fund starting a church like this in their community? We've got the opportunity to do all of that. I love that you get to hear directly from those guys about the difference you're making in their churches. And listen, the thing I want you to know is you're doing that in dozens and dozens of churches around the country. So I want to challenge those of you who call Journey home to help us maximize the opportunities God has given us to help churches like Josh's and churches like Chris's. And the first step in making that impact is to participate in our annual 4 offering. For those of you who are new, every year, this is our no strings attached generosity type of offering to show people God is for them. We give as big as we can possibly give, and then we give it all away. This year's projects are the biggest we've ever had, and it's going to take 100% participation to make it happen. So if you call Journey home and you haven't given yet, you can give in the app. You can go to givejourney.com and just select the 4 fund. Every penny you give will help fund these incredible opportunities we have to make an impact through nonprofits in our local communities, to help start churches around the country, and to help churches around the world. And by the way, if you're still wondering why we care about helping other churches in other places, well, the answer is simple. Because everybody in the world should live within driving distance of a Jesus-centered, others-focused, outward-facing church that makes it easy for them to understand how much God loves them, that makes it easy and simple for them to follow Jesus. And God has given you, He's given you and me the opportunity to play a small part in making sure that happens. And by the way, you should also care because it may be more personal to you than you realize. You're like me. From time to time, you have a family member, you have a friend who lives in an area or they move to an area, and they get to the point they want to give church a try and they want to explore faith. And you know what you hope when that happens? You hope there's a church like this in their community that they can go to. I know that because you will often reach out and ask me if there's a church like ours that I can recommend in that city or that community. Well, listen, we can be part of making sure there's a church like that wherever your loved one lives. And we don't have to do it alone. We're so much better because we get to partner together with people like Josh and Chris and all the other churches a part of the network we participate in. So let's maximize the opportunities God's given us. Let's give big to fund them. Let's keep making a difference here that's worth following. And let's see what extraordinary story God writes next through ordinary people like us.